then I definitely would recommend shopping out of season. So when it's winter, shop for your summer season stuff. Hello and welcome to another video. I actually filmed a video this morning and apparently I'm just feeling in a really chatty mood today. I'm like, yeah, I'll film more content. Why not? I don't feel totally fulfilled. Also, I mean, I really like my outfit today. I mean, you can't really see all of it. The thing is, like, I'm not actually wearing the skirt anymore. Full transparency. I have sweatpants on. Woo! So that's the bottom half, but the top half is great, and I did wear the full outfit earlier today when I walked out into the world, and this is in fact one of my favorite things that I've thrifted. So I figured today I would share some of my thrifting tips. I honestly really wanted to make this video because one of my besties told me that she was inspired by my thrifting abilities. I've been thrifting for years. Most of my closet, like, I think I can confidently say a good 85% of my closet is thrifted, at least. Well, and then there might be like some like hand-me-downs and stuff like that. So we're gonna say that roughly 10% of my closet are maybe items that I've actually bought new. I feel like that's a fair estimate. I don't know. I'm not about to actually go and make a whole data chart and actually figure out how accurate that is. I feel the need to be honest with you though. I'm like, I will if that's what you need me to do in order to know that I'm telling the truth. No, I'm not gonna do that. That's way too much effort. I'm just gonna make this video. We're gonna move on. Okay, cool. Anyway, so I figured I would share some of my thrifting tips. Usually I'd like to say that I go often and I am super picky. And by that I mean I usually would go about once a month. It's been definitely less frequent for me for budgeting reasons, and I'd say that I've started to do it a little bit more often again, specifically just to be able to get costume pieces. However, in terms of actually getting pieces just for my closet that I just like to wear on the regular, or things that I'm not specifically planning for, really have not been doing a whole lot of that. There might be like one or two things that I pick up along the way since I'm out and I see it and, you know, it catches my eye or whatever, but I really don't have the budget to do it as frequently as I would like to. Yeah, so I had actually filmed this closet clean out video and had planned to make a thrifting haul video afterwards. That video never came because there was no thrifting haul. All of the thrifting that I have done has been specifically for burlesque costumes. So that's where I am at this point in time. But in the future, when I have a little bit more of a budget, I would like to rebuild my closet. Also, I'm planning on maybe actually trying to make some of my own pieces, but that's another video. We're not talking about that right now. We're just gonna talk about how to go out into the wild and thrift and be successful. So yeah, my tip number one, go often and be picky. And by that, I mean, if you are not in love with something, you do not leave with it. If, however, that item just circles back in your brain for like the next couple of days, it's a sign. I have had a couple, it's a sign, follow it. No, I definitely have done that before where I followed that rule so strictly of I'm not in love with this, I'm going to leave. And then I end up leaving the store, and then suddenly I have all of these different ideas in my brain. I know exactly how I'm going to wear that piece of clothing. I need to go back and get that. And if I'm lucky enough and it's there, hallelujah, celebrate, super fun. And if it's not, well, then it's okay. It wasn't meant to be. There's always going to be more thrifting finds. I guess like also most of my tips today are going to be more centered around clothing. Although I definitely have thrifted many other things. That is how I've furnished several apartments, redoing, making up furniture and stuff. I've done a lot of like dumpster diving as well. I have eclectic taste for a reason. Partially because, you know, that's just how the budget's always been for me. And then also just because, I mean, hi, I'm an artist. I just take what's in front of me and I make it work. My second tip tip number 2, if you will, I would say is making sure that the item that you are picking up is good quality. And with the first and second rule, I'll say the one caveat is that occasionally I will get something that either isn't great quality or that I'm not in love with if it is for a one-time costume. And I know that I just, and even then, you know how picky I usually am. I get very fixated on details. So that often is not the case, but if it's a last minute thing, it's the best that I can find, and I just need to make something work, great. I'm gonna work with whatever I have in front of me, and especially just knowing that it's thrifted and that hopefully it's going to contribute to less waste environmentally overall, with me giving it a second life, even if it's just for one day and everything, then maybe I'll make that exception to the rule. The other exception for myself is that there have been a couple of times where I've picked up some, I don't know, maybe like really inexpensive thrifted fast fashion items, or just things that I've wanted to try on and kind of expand my style a little bit, but I don't necessarily want to have a full commitment to whatever that specific style is. I'm not going to invest $50 to $100 on a piece of clothing. I honestly don't really do that usually anyway. Most of my stuff is very inexpensive, but I am getting to the era where I am really wanting quality over quantity. And so I am kind of thinking in that mindset of like, okay, I know pretty routinely what styles end up coming back for me. So if I saw certain things in a certain style, if I had the budget for it, I would be willing to make that investment. If it's something that I am thinking I might only be into for a season, then thrifting is going to be a great option, especially since I'm not somebody who likes to participate in fast fashion, buying from any of those companies. I'm not gonna sit here and say that I've never done it before. I think we all have. I think that's just part of living in a consumerism culture. It's not something that I like to do often, but if I am going to have any of those items, that's the way that I'm gonna do it. I'll be honest, those items do not stay in my closet very long. They get rotated out very quickly, and it's really more just for information for me at that point on how I want to move forward with my style. Number 3, kind of going along with the whole style thing, I am somebody who really likes to have a Pinterest board. Yep, I'm not updating it every week by any means, especially if I know that I am going to be going shopping anytime soon and I want to have a clear idea of what I'm looking for. I might, before I even go out to the thrift store, go and review my Pinterest board and just remind myself of the things that I like. So that way, when I'm actually in the thrift store, I have an eye that's cued in, ready to search for specific items. Of course, it usually does say pretty broad in general. I'm not going to necessarily be like, red top, where is that specific red top? I will say though, one really cool thing from having a Pinterest board is that there are several items that I've had pinned one year, and then 2 years later, I've gotten that at a thrift shop, and sometimes I don't even realize it. Sometimes I'll just find it thrifting and be like, wow, this is really cool. I really want this. And then I'll look later on and see, oh my gosh, I pinned this. I wanted this 2 years ago, and now I have it. So then I actually ended up starting a Pinterest board of all the cool things that I own, because it's important to appreciate the things that you already have, right? I'm sitting here and I'm trying to think, what other tips do I have? I didn't actually really plan this video out. I was just like, I'm gonna sit down. I'm sure I'll have plenty of ideas. Let's just do it. Anyway, well, kind of again in the same vein of know thyself. Yeah, here's a good one. What are we on? Number 4? I don't know. I'm not actually keeping track. You know what? I'll organize it later. I'll just have the numbers flash up as I go. So sure, we'll say number 4 or 5 or 3, whatever this one is. If you know your style really well and you know that there are certain pieces that are very consistent for you, then I definitely would recommend shopping out of season. So when it's winter, shop for your summer season stuff. And obviously that is if you're going to a thrift store that is carrying all season long clothing, there are definitely plenty of times where I am buying sweaters in the summer, and I live in Arizona, and that's because nobody wants to even think about looking at a sweater at that time of year, but that's when some of the better quality things are just sitting out there on the rack. And oftentimes I'll get things that still have tags. So that is my preference. I've been thrifting long enough to where if something really doesn't look that new, like if it's a little bit too worn, I'm probably not going to get it. I want my stuff to be pretty good quality. So that's my preference. There are a lot of other people who don't care, and they're really about just trying to be as environmentally friendly as possible. They're just excited to be able to give that piece of clothing another shot at life, which I think is also really wonderful. And then I guess another tip would just be, if you are somebody who is a little bit more artistic, then, consider, do you want to pick up some pieces that you can use for art projects? I definitely in the future want to pick up some t-shirts and t-shirt dresses and try doing the whole like painting on fabric sort of thing. I think that would be really cool. And I definitely, oh my gosh, for like jean jackets too. Yes, please sign me up. Those will be videos at some point in the future. I have a lot of other projects that I have to catch up to first, but eventually we will do that. Do you want to dye clothing? Do you want to make something completely customized, make it your own or whatever? That's always like a fun thing to keep in mind. But I just throw that in there to mention it. I know that majority of people who are thrifting, or at least coming to videos like this looking for thrifting tips, probably are like, let's just start with not being overwhelmed with being in a thrift shop in general. And I will say, with going often, you get to know that specific thrift store a lot better. So you got to kind of see like, okay, is this a store that's gonna have some better quality items a little bit more often? Oh my gosh, if you go to the bougie neighborhoods, they make their thrift shops better. It's a sad fact, because I think that nice things should be accessible to everybody, but that's, again, not the society that we live in. So I'm giving you the tip to go and drive to the bougie neighborhood so that way you can get the better quality stuff. I think my final tip for today is going to be, if you get something and it does not fit, you need to be really honest with yourself and know if you are the type of person who is either going to A, tailor it yourself, or B, go and get it tailored. And ask yourself, is this item that I have worth going and having it be tailored? What is your intention with thrifting? Is it for environmental reasons? Because if that's the case, then maybe you're more than happy to go and get that piece of clothing tailored because you know that you are shopping in a space that is hopefully a little bit more ethical. I know not all thrift shops are the most ethical, I'm well aware. I plan to also try to do like more local thrift shops sometime soon. I really want to make a video doing that. I think that would be really fun. Anyway, that's again not this video. So many video ideas. I think it really comes down to just knowing your own habits, being willing to challenge yourself in the spaces where you think that you have a little bit of flexibility. It can be fun to go with friends. Oh my gosh, I really want to do that thing. I was out with friends like sometime last year, and we ended up finding this really cool party of people out at the bars, and they were all wearing thrifted outfits, and they were all their own character for the night, and they gave each other names. So like they all took turns like dressing each other, and I thought that was so fun. Best party idea ever. Right? Yeah, but I mean, again, here I am going into the theatrics of the costume making, but not everybody is necessarily going for that purpose. I get it. It's fine. Know yourself, know your style, and allow yourself to be flexible. I mean, that is the beautiful thing about thrifting typically being a little bit more affordable, is that you do have a little bit of that flexibility. I've yet to do any of the online thrifting. I find that a lot of that stuff is a little bit more expensive, and unless I know the brand really well and I have a pretty strong idea that that thing is going to fit well, that's an area where like I need to know myself and know that it's going to feel like a huge hassle to have to repackage that and send it back off in the mail. That's not something that gets me really excited. I would rather physically go and look at all of the pieces of clothing and be able to analyze it for myself and know if that is good quality or not. sometimes it's a good idea to just like, if you don't know what brand it is, look it up on your phone real fast. Like, just do a quick little Google search. I have a jean jacket that is, at least at the time when I looked it up, it was worth about $200, and I paid less than 10 for it. I liked the buttons on it, and I thought that it was a nice color denim, and it was really soft. So I bought that, looked it up later. It was like 190 something bucks or whatever when I looked it up. And, you know, I share that information, and I really hope that people don't take advantage of that. I don't know, people are going to do what they're going to do, and I'm not going to sit here and shame somebody if that is your way of making a living. I know that things are hard, and that's not necessarily like the absolute least ethical thing that you could be doing. And at the same time, I would encourage people to maybe refrain from going to thrift shops to buy high quality items just to sell them for more expensive prices. I think that these things, like I said, should be accessible to everybody. And for many people like myself, this is the way of getting clothing. I mean, for me, I've done it even when I have had more money, because it comes down to an ethical thing for me, as well as just like, it's fun. Like, it is a hobby. I love thrifting. But there are a lot of people who that is not a choice. Like, they need that in order to be able to have clothing in general, and everybody deserves to be able to have some stuff that's like nice. I would just keep that in mind. That being said, I also usually don't buy things outside of my size. I'm sure there will be an exception at some point where I'll buy a dress that's a lot larger for me or whatever, and use that fabric for something, for a project or whatever. I'm not gonna say that I'm gonna be perfect with that either, but if I am doing that, it is gonna be with a very clear intention of trying to create something from that piece of clothing. But typically I do like to try to leave a lot of that stuff, because I mean, especially if you're somebody who is shopping for a larger size, then I know that accessibility with that is hard enough in retail brands, let alone in a thrift store. So anyway, those are just a couple of the clothing thrifting tips that I have for today. If you have any really great tips below, feel free to share in the comments, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!